Thank you for joining me on the Sutherland Report yet again. Welcome back. Thank you for giving me the privilege of your time. Now, I'm continuing in my political series, which is about to take another wonderfully intriguing different direction. What is absolutely brilliant is when you have the privilege to interview someone that is far younger than yourself, and I won't give the age away or the age gap, but the fact that you meet another young person who has opinions, who is engaged in the political process and has thoughts about what is going on. And that is always an incredible privilege to me. So without further ado, and then we will go into our usual maps, I am going to bring on Charlie Simpson, who is a member of the National Youth Parliament in this country, and he will immediately explain what that is to us. Charlie, I cannot thank you enough, and it is an absolute delight to meet you by the digital medium. And I thank you already, sir, for your inspiration of being a young person of, how old are you, sir?
13.
13 years of age, who has opinions, thoughts, and is engaged in the political process. And I thank you for that from the off. Charlie, could you explain what hopefully I've got the name right, what the National Youth Parliament is, what role you play, how big is it, where does it meet, etc.?
So the UK Youth Parliament, if I could be wrong, I think it represents 950,000 young people across the UK. So a member, unfortunately, not every, so you've got your 650 constituencies. Unfortunately, not every constituency actually gets a member, due to your local council having to pay a membership fee to obviously the UK Youth Parliament. But I was lucky enough to get such a high majority and obviously get the voter turnout so high to the point where I was to get that membership out of the four people who obviously ran for it. So the UK Youth Parliament just represents people. You actually, in November every year, I'm sure, if the current sitting MPs vote on it, you can actually go speak in the House of Commons. I'm very new. I was elected in February. So I'm obviously very new to it. This is my first year, but I've enjoyed the process. I've enjoyed the campaigns, and I'm guaranteed to stay committed and probably run again in 2 years.
So, right. So is your tenure is for 2 years? Is that when
Yes.
you then have to be voted again?
Yeah, you have to be voted again. So up until the age of 18, or if you have SEND, like special educational needs, it's up to 25 you can run and obviously represent.
And am I right in saying that in May of this year, that's when finance for making sure that the Youth Parliament exists and is continuing was then reaffirmed again, was put in place?
So to my knowledge, the sitting chair of it, the person that kind of ran it all and stuff, was the British Youth Council. They actually had to declare bankruptcy, which put a lot of uncertainness into young people, thinking that the UK Youth Parliament was going to be shut down because there wasn't. People jumped to conclusions thinking there was going to be no money for it, but that's actually funded by the Department of Culture, Media and Sport. But we're very lucky that we have got a new national body appointed. It's the National Youth Agency, so they will be taking over the role. They took over from the 21st of May, so they're now the sitting body to obviously make sure everything's running smoothly in the UK Youth Parliament.
Brilliant. So leading up to it, how did you find out about it? How did you conduct your campaign to then win your seat? I use that language, to then win your seat.
So I found out about it by my local youth worker at my school. She informed me about it because she knew I kind of registered myself and I kind of made it clear that I'm into politics and I'd like to represent people. because obviously before all this, I was a member of my school council for a year, and also like a tutor representative. So obviously everyone in my school knows about how engaged I am with local politics and national politics. So I found out via her. I conducted my campaign using, well, the digital media, social media, a wonderful way to get my message out to voters. I created Instagram, Twitter accounts, which from that it gained a lot of views, and a lot of people started to pick up on what I was doing. So from my knowledge, in these UK Youth Parliament elections, the voter turnout was never that high because young people weren't aware of it. Now, I arranged with my school to actually have it in like a ballot day where you could go in and vote, you know. So that actually raised the voter turnout, from obviously social media and stuff. It got people engaged in politics. I'd be in school, people would come up to me, so what's your plans? Kids that would never ever want to know about politics was getting involved because they knew it actually mattered them, and I was there to represent them. So I conducted my campaign via that social media, as well as meeting with obviously my MP, Mr. Anderson, and I tried to meet with my local councillors. That's another story for another day. But obviously, I conducted my campaigns by networking, speaking out to obviously other candidates, other members of current members of Youth Parliament at the time, you know. So obviously, this is how I got into it, and this is how I conducted my campaigns.
Brilliant. And I put that wonderful picture of you with Lee Anderson at the beginning of the show. So thank you. So I think what'd be really good, we'll come back to that. But if I show a few maps so we can set the scene, because I do have viewers that are outside the UK, and then you can explain geographically. It's not a geography test, so don't worry, Charlie. But then we can show people where it is. So here's the map of England I always use, and you just describe whereabouts you are.
So as we can see, Sheffield, Leeds and Manchester, if my geography is on point today, which I probably won't be, I will be in the middle of the triangle. So that should be the centre, and the Leeds, the Sheffield and the Manchester. So brilliant. In the centre.
Brilliant. So I'm just going to put up, goes close on that area. So here you go. So that is that's the area. Yep.
Yeah.
Right. And then Ashley. There it is.
In all its glory.
In all its glory. So Charlie, fantastic. So you ran this campaign. Now, what excited the young people? What did you do to engage them to suddenly realize, hold on a minute, this is important, and to vote for you? Were there any specifics?
There were. So I will admit, I obviously knew what got the young people's attentions. If I were to put up a couple of flyers around school saying vote for Charlie, that would get none of it. So I arranged with someone at my school, a teacher who actually did videography, who obviously did like recording and stuff, the head of my school's IT department. And we sat down and he took me loads of professional campaign photos, and he actually recorded me my campaign video. Now in the campaign video, I thought to myself, what's going to get the people's attention? A catchy slogan. So I must admit, I did pull a bit of a Tony Blair, have something to obviously have my name with, have a bit of a song. So the catchy slogan was vote for Charles, vote for change. Obviously, that got everyone's attention. People in schools coming up to me. And then also something I used to say is things can only get better from here. I did school assemblies and stuff, and I said a vote for me is a vote for change. So the word change grabbed their attention because they thought, you know, this election is something I want to be involved in. They grabbed it, you know, they took it. So I think I will admit, I obviously knew what I was doing with all my slogans and all my songs and the social media, but it worked because they heard the word change and they thought, like, Ashfield, not really the most represented place ever. Obviously, Lee Anderson does a wonderful job, but it's hard for him to represent the young people. Now, when they all heard there's a member of Youth Parliament, none of them knew what UK Youth Parliament was until I stepped in and got them out on social media. And then the word change, from there, I won a landslide majority.
Well done you. So what change were you on about? What change have you wanted to then bring in, and how successful is that happening? What is rolling out from there?
So in my manifesto, I had so obviously in my official manifesto, and then I had a bit of an unofficial one for my campaign video. So I spoke about more accessible free school meals, about reforming the free school meal system, as in my personal opinion, I believe free school meals are being given out to the wrong people, and people are being left out when they do deserve them. They just don't meet that threshold. So I'm all about reforming the free school meal system. Then with mental health, I would like to establish mental health support groups so young people are getting their concerns heard and not being left out. Because I believe if you have someone listening to your problems and your mental health is being dealt with, I believe you can thrive in school. You can thrive in grades. You can thrive in like exams. I believe it's so important that we tackle mental health from the front before it gets to a bigger problem and affects school grades. Now, another bit of the manifesto, another thing in my manifesto, I spoke about increasing funding for local youth services. Now, obviously, as I got elected on it, I actually sat down with someone from the council on a Zoom call, and we discussed. And in Nottinghamshire is the Nottinghamshire area is one of the highest funded for schools. So I actually had to drop that manifesto point because the funding can't exceed any higher because there's already that much funding in there. It would mean tax cuts from things that really do matter. I'm not saying funding doesn't matter, but funding for your local youth services and schools is so high, it can't be increased anymore, like realistically. So obviously, unfortunately, I do have to admit I did have to drop that, but I'm working towards my main two now, free school meals. I actually hoped to launch a free school meal campaign not too long ago. That kind of got delayed. Still waiting to hear back on how to do all this. I did have a campaign video recorded for it. So obviously I'm going to launch a national campaign, well, a local campaign as well. With with mental health, I was hoping to sit down with some people in that job, to obviously see how they can offer support, and about establishing in youth clubs, sit down circles with a professional so you can speak about your issues. So this is how I'm planning on doing it.
I just want to say that the Reform UK logo is in the corner as a tribute to Lee Anderson. So I just want to say that. Mental health, what are the challenges, in your opinion, that young people are facing? What are you coming across with? Hence your motivation for wishing to challenge the mental health problems.
So I'm going to get myself into some hot water for saying this, but it's my belief and studies show it. These ridiculous gender ideologies being taught in schools is really affecting young people's mental health because they're getting confused. And, I'm going to get in hot water for this, but I'm going to say how it is. We need to stop telling kids they can be whatever they want and they can change into whatever they want. And we really need to be focusing on making sure grades are higher and not telling them, you can transition at such a young age. The frontal lobe of your brain is not developed until the age of 25. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm going off a bit now, but with the votes at 16,
you don't have to apologise, Charlie. Keep going.
With the votes at 16, like again, I think it's ridiculous by the Labour Party. Obviously, I'm going to get myself in hot water, but I'll say how it is. Votes at 16, when you still need parental consent for the majority of things up until the age of 18, should you really be voting for who should be in charge of your country? So with the mental health, I believe schools need to be focusing more on, making sure kids are thriving in lessons. These PSHE lessons about you can change your gender at the age of 10. No, you can't. You're born what you're born. You stay as what you stay as until the age of 18. And I'm sorry, if we focus more on what the real issues are in schools, I don't think mental health would be much of a problem. But yeah, that's one of the main reasons.
But one of the wonderful privileges of sitting down and having this conversation with you is that this is your reality. You are on the ground having these conversations. You're witnessing this amongst other people of your age. They're your peer group. I would be like, as a parent, say, from the outside looking in, but when you're chatting to a young person actually on the ground, You cannot get better information than this. And there are times, aren't there, we have to go into the hot water and we have to say it how it is. Could you explain what hot water came your way? What actually then happened?
So I put up a post saying, come on guys, we need to face the reality there's only two genders, and the government needs to be really looking into why this is allowed and why the manipulation stuff. So when I say hot water, obviously this is, like I said, in my eyes, this is an exclusive interview. I haven't really been allowed to speak. Obviously, in a way, I've been silenced by, obviously, the higher ups. So I'm not going to sound like Liz Truss here. But obviously, I've been told not to speak about this, but I'm going to give you the exclusive today, Mark. So
who was telling you not, without naming names, who was telling you not to speak about it? Where was this pressure coming from?
The pushing was coming from the Department of the Culture, the Media and Sport, as well as from Nottinghamshire County Council Youth Services, as well as the UK Youth Parliament. Wow. I have been attacked on all fronts. Now, like I said, I was put under an investigation by the UK Youth Parliament Steering Group for transphobia and political bias. Obviously, being photoed with Lee Anderson, that obviously kicked off the gun. Say if he was a Labour politician, that wouldn't have even looked two ways. So I think I need to start taking photos with Keir Starmer. You know, so that obviously, as well as saying obviously my post, I got put under investigation by the UK Youth Parliament Steering Group. But because the British Youth Council unfortunately went bankrupt, the UK Youth Parliament Steering Group had no right to actually investigate me when they opened an investigation against me. Caused me a lot of hassle, stress, anxiety. This is, again, all this pressure on young people. You know, my local media reported on it. I admit, I gave them the tip off from my social media posts. I even sat down with a local journalist, gave him an exclusive, told him what's happening. Then, to my knowledge,
did he report on that?
He did, and he had fair reporting. He was amazing. But my Chad News, that's Ashfield News and Mansfield News, they were very politically biased. You know, the person that wrote the article on me was a left-wing journalist. So, of course, but
just out of interest, this left-wing journalist wrote this article on them. Do you know the age of this particular journalist?
In his 50s, I would assume so.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it is. You know, so there's all these stuff. And then I was told informally on a Zoom call, once again, I was spoken to about my conduct. I said on a live stream, you know, about some stuff. I apologise. I shouldn't have said it how I said it, you know. And on that live stream, I went, is there any update on the steering group investigation against me? No. Unfortunately, that investigation actually got dropped against you. It actually had no right to be opened. And I went, all right. So I told said local journalist, I said, come round, I'll give you this, I'll give you the exclusive. I was then once again told off for that, for making sure the people of Ashfield knew what was happening. They've said, then they've lied, and then they've said the investigation was never dropped, it just couldn't have been opened, there was no investigation, they've got none of this. So I actually was told, using my MYP title on social media, I wasn't allowed to post using Twitter social media. My parents, well, my mum and my dad, most supportive people in the world, you know, driven me to London, you know, to meet Lee Anderson, you know, in the House of Commons. And so my parents said, Charlie, we're here to support you. You do what you need to do. So obviously when I told them about this exclusive with you, Mark, they was like, do it, Charlie. Don't hold back. Tell the truth, what's really happening. And this is what I've been doing today. So essentially, they're attempting to silence me now. I think I'm going to have about 1 week after this interview is released to brace myself, because I know as soon as some people in the UK Youth Parliament and my fellow members see this interview, they will send it to the higher ups. And unfortunately, Mark, I believe I will not be a member of Youth Parliament much longer.
Right. Can you, first of all, I'll just say again, Charlie, thank you for joining me, and thank you for giving me this exclusive. And as for you just to express what's going on, because this is vitally important. And I will say this, it's vitally important because this is also very, very good and healing and important in regard to your mental health.
It is.
So let's just make that's why free speech is important.
That's why free speech is important. This is why I'm doing this, to get things off my chest, and I want to do it public. I'm not holding back. But I was elected to represent the people of Ashfield, and you know what? It will hurt me so much if they tell me, Charlie, you're no longer welcome. It will. But if they do kick me out, I want the people of Ashfield, who are probably listening when this is released, I will never, ever stop advocating for you. My inbox will always be open. Any concerns, and I will take them to the higher up. Because unlike a lot of people, no one can tell me what to do, because I know what's right and I know what's wrong. So I want the people of Ashfield to know the truth. Whatever happens to me, in terms of if they kick me off, which as it's looking they will, and I'm sorry, people saying I'm doing this all for the publicity, the clout. No, I'm not. I'm doing this because I want people to know the truth, the real truth, because I'm a local person with common sense, and I know there's only two sexes, two genders, you know. So this is why it's so important I come out and speak to you today, Mark. So yeah.
Well, that is extremely kind of you to do so. So you're saying that you reckon it'll only be out there a week before they then kick you off. What will be their reasoning for saying we're now going to exclude you for the Parliament if they actually go down that line?
The reasoning will be simply, they'll jump on it straight away. They'll be looking at this video for every single reason. I'm wearing a bit of blue. Oh my gosh, Conservative. There's a Reform UK logo in the corner. Oh, he must be far right. You know, I support Reform UK, and I love Reform UK, and they're going to be the party that changes this country. You know, I'm going to go off now a bit, but all I'm going to say is how it is straight. You know, we're going to speak about immigration now. Illegal immigration needs to stop. I'm sorry, it needs to stop. Reform UK is the only party that will change that. If I'm far right for believing that Reform UK have those sensible policies, then I'm far right. And I've just said that live. You know, I'm sorry. And with Reform UK are willing to challenge these ridiculous ideologies in schools, you know, which is phenomenal. They've got my backing, and I will be campaigning for Mr. Anderson to make sure he's elected again for Ashfield. But the reasoning will most likely be political bias. I don't know what they're going to pull out. Political bias, transphobia. Let's hope we don't get into the conversation about immigrants, otherwise now racism. But yeah, so
the whole subject of immigration has suddenly come front and center when we've had 680,000, I think last year seems to be, or over the last couple of years, this influx into our country. And Charlie, can you explain the ramifications of the mass immigration? What does it actually do to your area and then to our country? What's it doing? What are the strains is it creating?
With mass immigration, legal or illegal, you know, it's taking away our high streets off of us. You know, I do get called names. I get called racist because I point out the obvious. You know, I don't feel safe in Ashfield anymore. You know, I spoke to someone in politics about it. When I walk down my streets, I don't feel safe anymore. I turn my corner and I feel like I'm being watched. You know, I will get labelled racist for this, you know, but it's the truth. I'm sorry. You know, hotels are the people in the wrong here, housing these asylum seekers, you know, which then when they house the asylum seekers, it takes, you know, them hotels could be used to house veterans, people that fought for our country. Instead, we're giving it away to people who don't even know the English language, don't even know what the religion Christianity is. And I'm sorry, that's not British. You know, I want my country back. You know, I want to be able to. Unfortunately, I don't think I've ever actually had a country. I'm 13, born in 2010. You know, I was born, you know, as the country was starting to lose itself. You know, so unfortunately, Mark, you're very lucky. You seem to have got to see the proper English life. Unfortunately, me, I don't know. I might be speaking in a different language in a couple of years, but, you know.
I think what you've just said is very profound, and
Yeah.
you are right. as in it's why people then, like myself, others, are engaged in raising the alarm, then having this conversation with you, because we have seen a decline stealth by stealth, and then I think it's been like a massive slide into a pool of water. Charlie, what is, because this be the accusation that most probably would come at you, e.g., how have you formed your opinions? Has someone told you to think like this? Do you know what I mean? What has influenced your opinions? You can see the way these things go.
What's influenced my opinion is being a young person in school. So when it comes to these transgender ideologies, I'm taught these things. They attempt to brainwash me at the end of the day, you know. So I will admit, you know, no one's told me to think this other than my own mind has not told me, but shown me. My own eyes have shown me. Like I explained about walking down my own streets, I don't feel safe anymore. When I spoke about these transgender ideologies and generally the LGBTQ plus community, you know, we're taught this in school. And obviously I see this, I've not been told this by no one. Accusations were made that I was being brainwashed by my parents. I'll admit my parents don't vote. My parents are very, when it comes to politics, they're not very like, they know obviously what politics is, but they don't understand it all. They only understand that they want the country back. They want common sense policies. That's what my parents understand. So they have not brainwashed me at all, as some people say. As well as I get slander. You know, I will admit, I think it was a large number of death threats I received. But at the end of the day, I don't care if I got death threats because it's shown that I'm clearly doing something right because I'm annoying a lot of people for saying my truth. And this is what my parents have told me. My parents did say, Charlie, do you want to take a step away from the media? I went, no, because if I take a step away, then they've won. And I sat down with my parents and you know what? They said, Charlie, we agree with you. My parents support me through all this. On Facebook, when I was pictured with Lee Anderson, people said that Lee Anderson were getting in my head and telling me things. Not at all. It's my own two eyes that are showing me what is going wrong in this country.
And this is why I've asked the question, because people would say that how we form our opinions, what is influencing, etc., is very important. But the fact is, people cannot argue when you turn around and say, "I am being taught this at schools, and I object at school, and I object to it. I don't agree with it." So how do other members of your peers feel about this? How do other young people feel about this? How do your other friends feel about this? And where does this then begin to maybe collide with youth services and the council, etc.?
So my friends, extremely supportive, at least my friend group. My best friend, obviously, he's been there through thick and thin with me. You know, even when people were saying, you know, are you still going to be friends with me after all this? And I'm one of my closest friends. I lost friends, but then one of my closest friends stuck around. And, you know, he even campaigned with me on all my policies. He was like one of my campaign managers. He was in my campaign team. He got me elected, you know. And then obviously we'll speak about, obviously, my peers in school. There's a lot of teachers in my school that think I'm ridiculous. Obviously, they've seen stuff on the social media about me. And they do have a bit of a dig at me in lessons, which that shouldn't be happening in lessons.
No.
You know, I'm not going to say subjects, then you'll know, people who are watching this will know who I'm on about. But, you know, they're there to teach lessons, not to have digs at me for my political opinions. You know, as soon as 3 o'clock comes, say what you want to me, you know, and I'll have a third debate for you. But stopping lessons to have digs at me is not on at all. You know, if you focus more on teaching, maybe school grades would be a lot higher.
Just ask you, again, the same question. When you refer to a reporter maybe in their late 50s, you're 13. What's the average age of these teachers that are saying these comments at your school?
So it's obviously in its 30s, 40s, 50s. It's all, you know, I think, sorry, I don't want to age discriminate, but the older you get, you tend to see there's a lot more lefty in them. Now, I think that is because generally Ashfield's an ex-coal mine town. Anyway, so obviously everyone's obviously all Labour all the way, you know. Everyone's still stuck in the 1980s, as it looks like. So obviously they do obviously all have digs at me and stuff, but that is because they're at the age of 40, 50, 60, you know, and sometimes there are younger teachers, like 30s, in the 30s and 20s, but mainly them higher ages I tend to see.
And do you think these other teachers, and as I say, I declare it, I am an ex-secondary teacher, along with other experiences in life, but that's full disclosure, because this is the important question. Have any of those teachers done any other job outside teaching, do you think? Have they had other work experience?
To my knowledge, no. They obviously, I said to one teacher who was in the 40s or 50s, I went, how long have you worked here? They went, you know what, I came to school here, went to university, then I came here again to work. So you do tend to see none of them have really had much of a job. None of them know what is, you know, they're all about striking in my eyes. I don't agree with striking personally. I believe it takes away children's education to strike. Yes, I believe teachers should be paid fairly, but there should be more government. I think you should be talking face to face to the government, other than standing at school on the picket line thinking you're making a difference, because I'm sure you're not. You're just taking away kids' education.
And who, just out of interest, who is actually paying for their wages?
The government.
Precisely.
The taxpayer. You know, it all comes from you, me when I turn 16 or 18, national insurance. It'll be me, the taxpayer, that will be paying for them. So, if anything, you're having a dig at the taxpayer, you're having a dig at them children's parents, you know. If anything, you pay for your own wages through income tax and national insurance. So, are you going to strike against yourself? I don't think so. So, don't strike against the government.
And where do you think they get their thinking from? I mean, you named a teacher that they went to school there, they then went to college, university in the area, then they go back and teach in that school. It's all they've ever known. But where do you think they get their ideology and their mind full of an ideology that we would disagree with?
I think it's just because they're quite old-fashioned. I think the only form of social media they have is Facebook, and then they obviously read the Sun newspaper, or my local newspaper, and the Sun newspaper, as we all know, is very, very left-wing. Backed Tony Blair in 1997, switched and went against the Conservative government, and now has gone to Labour. So obviously, it's reading these, these left-wing newspapers and seeing it all on social media. I think that's where they get the ideologies from.
How do you define left wing, Charlie? How do you define that?
I define left wing. I mean, that's a really hard one, honestly. Left wing is obviously backing socialist policies, you know, or communist, of how far down the spectrum you want to go. So I believe left wing, in my eyes, is, you know, it's a really hard one, you know, but left wing is obviously backing socialist policies. So that's all about, you know, nationalising and stuff. So I'm very new to the political spectrum, but backing socialist policies.
So I'll throw this out. Do you think we're at this fight, what we call like collectivism against individualism? E.g., you at 16 turn around and go, right, I want to run my own business. I want society to be empowered in such a way that I can run my own business. So say from the age of 16, you start opening up a sandwich shop, bakery, blah, 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 and you start being self-employed. Fine. But also the fact that you then can expand, you can then make more money, you can then employ people. Where if you then are surrounded by a mindset that doesn't want you to do that, there's more regulation. It will say to you, you could only grow this big. And
that's a left-wing approach. You can only grow this big. Controlling, obviously, I'm a capitalist. Obviously, I believe, you know, if you turn 16, I'm all for local small businesses. I'm all about, so you hear all these things about attacking landlords and obviously people that rent out houses. They're just running a business. You know, if it was up to Labour, we'd all be living in council houses on benefits, you know, and I'm sorry, yeah, I'll get onto it now. That's a left-wing policy, you know. So, like, being left-wing in my eyes is living on the on the poverty line, just barely getting by every single day, taking your pay slip every 2 weeks. You know, in my eyes, they don't want growth. They want you all to stay the same. But in my eyes, capitalism is making sure you can thrive to the highest. You can grow. You can expand that business. You can rent out a couple hundred houses. But under Labour, or under obviously left wing, you will only be able to have caps. I don't agree with capping, you know, barriers to growth. You know, that's what, in my eyes, that's left wing. You know, restricting growth, and that's why I believe, you know, if Labour win the general election, the economy will decline because there's no growth. You know, and obviously inflation will rise because there's not that extra growth. You know, there's not that extra money, and employment rates will be down because everyone will be on benefits. Because I'm not being funny, Labour don't even have a plan to take people off of benefits and get them back into the line of work. But Reform UK and the Conservatives do, you know.
Well, and I mean, if we look at history, you look at how Stalin run things, you look at the USSR, you look at communism. And it's understanding how that system worked and the control of the population, etc., and the huge negativity of that. And I think it's one of the reasons why a lot of, including myself, got very, very angry with the so-called conservatives, because I turn and say, well, are you conservatives or are you con-socialists? You know, you're not. In other words, far up growth. People might have had a go at Liz Truss, but she wanted to cut taxes. If you cut taxes, in the end, you will get more revenue back in.
Because people will want to work. You know, if taxes are low, it makes people think, wait, taxes are low, wait, I can go out and work. Me personally, I get a tax because I say all this about Labour, taxing the rich, taking the rich, so you're punishing someone for being successful. That's my eyes. And about also putting VAT on private school fees. Should that happen? No, it shouldn't. Because 1 in 8 students at private school will be dropping out because it's not everyone that goes to private school are rich and entitled. Parents are having to pay such expensive, such a lot of money because they know their children are smart and they're not going to go well in a public school, are they? You know, a state-funded school.
Well, that's why we need to, I personally think, expand the grammar school system, and people
absolutely need to... Grammar schools, you know, state schools should be taking a leaf out of grammar schools' book. Statistically, students in grammar schools leave with all their GCSEs because they're being taught by people professionally. You know, there's none of these substitutes. Or someone's not in today, we're going to just give you an African substitute. You know, sorry, you are a secondary school. You used to be a secondary school teacher, didn't you? How many years ago was that?
I left 2003. I was actually attacked. I worked in a pupil referral unit, and I got attacked by a pupil.
Oh.
Well, and what I'm going to say is that all the rights are geared towards the pupil, not to the staff to legitimately defend themselves.
You should be allowed to defend yourself.
Yeah.
You know, people, obviously I'm getting on again. People have asked me about gun laws. Should we be allowing guns in this country? Well, I believe you should have a right to defend yourself. So answer that question yourself. Should we have it? You know, so I do. Obviously, I'm going to get onto gun violence here quickly. Just, I believe we should be, allowing people, ordinary people, to own guns. Obviously with restrictions, but to defend themselves. Because I believe, unfortunately, we're in a time where it's fight or flight, and unfortunately, the only way to really survive is fight. So I agree with, you know, making it so you can have guns.
Well, it's one of the big cultural things that over here we don't understand about America, partly because of the left-wing thinking that we see. But guns don't shoot people. Guns are fired by people that own them. And I will say that and be as controversial as you. But in America, you have the First Amendment defended by the Second Amendment. And it isn't for duck shooting. It is so that you can raise a militia against a tyrannical government. And as in history, if you look at it, every time there is democide where leaders kill their own people, it is preceded by people taking the guns away. What the wonderful thing about having this conversation, whether people agree or not with you, Charlie, what you are doing is provoking them to think. And very often people are more wanting to go with the herd than actually be free thinkers and individualism, because that's how we change things. I commend you for that. You've said so many fascinating things, but that's why I kept bringing up this age difference. Say of teachers saying things to you who are, clearly old enough to be your parents, and then and you turning around and going, well, no, I'm going to question that. So when in just over a year's time, are you about to start your GCSE courses?
No, I've got 3 years until my GCSEs.
So no, so the coursework, the program, do you start that at 14?
Yes, so in year 9, that's when you obviously start all of that kind of stuff.
So you are in year 9 at the moment?
So no, so I'm in year 8 at the moment.
Sorry, I do apologise. I'm just
fine.
Just trying to...
Obviously I'm in year 8 at the moment, so I get a lot of people saying, I take my hat off to you. You're in year 8 and you advocate for 25,000 people from a Monday to a Friday, also managing my school. Now, I'm not going to toot my own horn or anything. I do phenomenal in school, as well as doing amazing out of school. But unfortunately, I fear that in a couple of years, when it comes to my GCSEs, I won't be in school anymore. Because if I keep voicing my opinion, I don't believe any school's going to want to have me under Labour. Because of all these new laws, I think I will probably be in prison from speaking the truth now. I'm so afraid of all these new laws they're going to bring in. So, yeah. But, yeah.
Well, so you're talking about a subject that's also very close to my heart, which is being cancelled, aren't you?
I'm cancelled Monday to Friday on Twitter and Instagram, and on Facebook. So it's nothing new. But when they start bringing in laws, it's like I would hate to be in Scotland right now with the new hate crime laws. I would, it'd be ridiculous. But obviously, it's going to be hard for me. People have told me, Charlie, you're going to need to start lowering your tone a bit, and you're going to need to drop your opinions. Now that isn't my family telling me. Trust me, they're telling me, Charlie, you speak louder, you speak your voice. But obviously teachers at school are saying, you're not going to be here much longer if you carry on with what you're doing. There's teachers that have it out against me. So, yeah.
Well, they can't threaten you like that. But they do, but maybe that's something that you're going to make sure that you have recorded, but they can't. In other words, it's like saying, well, when they make those comments, why are they saying that to you? What are the threats? Why are they so offended by what you say?
Because they know it's the truth and they're scared. Because I've made it very clear to them. I've said, when I turn 18 or whenever the general election is, I'll be standing in Ashfield to be an MP. And I honestly think they're scared of me and my belief, and this is why they're cancelling anyone with my beliefs. This is why young people don't get into politics, because as soon as they do, they're immediately pushed out by these people that think they're better than everyone. I was told on a podcast yesterday that I've got a massive ego and stuff, and I need to knock myself down a couple levels. Now, this was like 450 people were listening. And you know what? That really made me think. No, I haven't got a massive ego. I've just got a massive heart and a massive voice. And all I want to do is make sure people are having their concerns heard, and I'm speaking common sense.
Well, I want to say, I'll just speak into that. But it's because people are not used to meeting incredible 13-year-olds who are articulate, who have an opinion, and they know how to express that. And also, if they are wrong, they're prepared to say so, and there is growth, and you grow and you change, but you have an opinion, and that is that doesn't go along with the herd, and that's what people are then threatened by, because you are making them think.
Absolutely. I'm making them reconsider every single decision they've made. I make them reconsider who they voted for in 2019, 2017, 2015, and 2010. I make them really reconsider everything. I'm like I said, people see me as a threat. You shouldn't. I'm 13. I've just got a voice and a really massive heart, and I'm only here to advocate for people. And obviously, so far, this exclusive I've given you, it's been wonderful. I felt really good because I've been able to voice this opinion and say what I believe is right, you know? I mean, I know I'm going to say it for the record now, I will be cancelled for this interview. But, you know what, all that matters, I've got the backing and the support of local people, and my mum and my dad and the rest of my family support me. So that's all I care about.
There are many people in this country that agree with you, Charlie.
Hopefully, but unfortunately, my message hasn't reached them yet. This is why I hope that people can see this and they can check out my social media and they can see what I'm all about.
We're in the last few minutes of our amazing conversation, and I thank you for it. When within your constituents, what are the needs? What other needs are they bringing to you? What's a regular need that that young people are bringing to you for you to address?
The main things, so obviously my emails, I think I get about 15 emails a day from young people and sometimes parents saying bullying is an issue. Bullying. A majority of them are because young people like me are speaking out.
Could you tell viewers where they can actually reach you? Could you give out your email?
So my member of youth parliament email, which is run by me, is that Charlie Simpson, so my name, MYP @outlook.com. Mark, you've got it. So if you can drop it in the description and stuff. And then in terms of social media, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, so you can find me all on there.
Right.
And obviously I'm on Google.
So what are the other concerns that you're having to deal with in regard to young people? You've talked about the bullying, and it's fantastic. I will say this, I think it's fantastic that parents will also reach out to you. That is
I've got a very good connection with the local people, which is phenomenal.
Right. When you say you've got a local connection, how do you make that connection? Is it just through social media, or physically, how do you make that connection?
So it's not just through social media, because obviously I still luckily attend school, unfortunately. Obviously students come up to me, I speak to them, and occasionally I obviously am a local person. I will, you know, go down to the pub. Probably not, I won't be drinking alcohol in another week. But obviously, you know, I will go down to obviously a pub. And obviously, if I'm sitting there, people come up to me, I speak with people. You know, sometimes, occasionally, when I'm campaigning with political parties, not going to say which one, obviously, people on the doorstep, I don't speak about my role as a member of youth parliament, but as soon as I'm not with the political party anymore, they come and speak to me, you know? So I had that chat with them. And obviously, so I'm always there, out and about. People always know where I am. You know, I am a very busy person now, but I never forget where I've came from, and I still stay loyal to the local people.
Very often, we often meet jealousy. Yeah. We often meet jealousy of those people of a particular age who are extremely young, who are clever, and who are, as I say, who are articulate. They have their own, they've got their own ideas. They can explain why they think the way that they do. Also, they may even understand that rare thing called history. And if we don't understand it, as someone said, then we're destined to repeat it again, sadly. In the last minute, Charlie, is there anything that you feel that you would like to say that you've left out?
I think I've covered it all. Other than if you're from Ashfield, if you're from wherever you're from, I'm always here to advocate for you. Reach out to me. Obviously, Mark will put my socials in the description and stuff, or on screen, and how he'll do it all. Come and drop me a message, you know, speak to me. Journalism's important, you know, this is why I'm always speaking to local, I'm always speaking on this and stuff. So if you ever want a bit of an interview or a bit of a Zoom call, anyone, I can arrange that and we can speak, you know. I've got time for the people, you know. So I think that's all I've got to say.
Well, Charlie, and I'll get into hot water along with you and be privileged to be there. I just want to thank you for your time. Thank you for the inspiration that you are at the age of 13. I would say that if I was your parent, I would be extremely proud, as I know they are, of who you are. And I'm not just saying that to blow blue smoke up your backside, as my friends in America so often say. It's genuine. And the other thing is that if we are not encouraging young people to reach their full potential and achieve, then we also won't have a country, because this is why we have generations, and we need to influence that, and to seek them to be inspiration and inspiring. So you are, and I thank you for that. I just ask you to never ever do a William Hague, e.g. you always reveal who you are. You stand by your core beliefs. What you see is what you get. Nothing is hidden. So thank you for joining me, Charlie.
No worries, it's been wonderful.
It's been fantastic. And if you could just give out your email again, and I will make sure it goes in the description.
CharlieSimpsonMYP at outlook.com.
Right. Well, I'm going to play us out, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really hope that you've thoroughly enjoyed this. Please share it. I'm going to play us out. Charlie, stay there. I'll say goodbye to you, as I often say, on the other side. So from me on the Sutherland Report, I just want to thank you for your time. Thank you for Charlie's time. And we don't ask you to agree with us. What we ask you to do is to think, go away, have an opinion, and work out why you have that opinion, and then bring it back so we can actually sit down and have a very, very adult and sensible discussion. And that's all we ask. Charlie, thank you again.
It's been wonderful.